Emma Renee Durning, and this is the Sierra Scan Daily News Report on Tuesday, December 1st.
That you have not been to. There are some places I've been that you have been to too. There are some places you've been that I have not been to. There are some places that we have not been to yet.
Today in Paris, the second day of climate negotiations is in full swing. An important part of today's activities has been the opening of the Climate Generation Space, a public forum where SSC has been connecting with organizations and individuals from all over the world. I sat down with Mair, the recently elected national president of the Sierra Club, to talk about the role of the U.S. climate movement back at home and his hopes for COP21. Let's take a look. We're here today at Climate Generations with the recently elected president, Mair, and he's also a longtime community organizer. So we were wondering if you could talk a little bit about the relationship between your community organizing and being here at COP.
Well, community organizing, or any type of organizing, is really critical, I think, in any time you want to prepare, as I say, to be part of any major movement. One thing to be a part of a movement, another thing to be organized and part of a movement. Because when we talk about power and hitting and having an impact, being an organizer and being organized is a critical way. It's basically people coming together. As you say, a good coat is thread woven together. Think of an individual as a strand of thread. By itself, it doesn't clothe much, it doesn't shield much, it doesn't protect much. But when put together with other people and other groups and other cohorts, when it becomes a fabric, then you have something that can protect, cover, and as I say, blunt against any threats that may come at you. So to think that organizing is a really critical aspect of any individual's, as I say, development and as I say, commitment to any movement. So being by oneself is, I guess, getting radicalized or being one that's engaged is the initial step. But then you start developing principles and concepts whereby, you want to move, as I say, and bring about change. And so being organized is a critical step with regards to getting to that next level. So organizing is that fundamental element. And you cannot be any more impactful at an international level, and as I say, unless you're part of a movement. Sure, individuals can make change, but movements are not about individuals. It's when you recognize that you're part of a community and that you're part of that fabric, again, following along with that metaphor, that fabric of the community, that you, as I say, have something to come forward and show. So the banner behind us, it's symbolically, metaphorically speaking, like our student coalition. It's part of our Sierra Club fabric that brings impactful action, and now here at the international level, here at COP21.
Great. And could you talk a little bit about the impact that the U.S. public can have on the negotiations here?
Well, the most important thing the U.S. public can do is be informed. As you know, our nation is the world's most leading, important, significant economy and superpower. And so we have not only a moral obligation at the global level, because again, a lot of what we consume to build our society, to the material things that we enjoy, the cars we drive around, the fuels that we put in the cars, the things that power our homes, are very much connected to a global economy. So when we start to, as a public and as a populace, understand that we are very much connected to the factors that cause climate change and climate rise by the energy consumption in our inefficient life footprint, on top of all the things that are going on. But we got to pay attention, because if the poorest nations and the poorest people in the world are paying attention, that at a minimum, as I said, the most wealthy nation on the face of the earth, and granted we have a stratification of income, but still wealthy relative to the rest of the world, we have a very important role to play. So educating our citizens and getting our citizens engaged to, as I say, to push our elected leaders to come out with legislation and policies that, as I say, would ratchet down those forces that are contributing to greenhouse gases. And specifically, I think the president has launched something with regards to the Clean Power Plan. This is something that not only will lower our carbon production footprint and our carbon producing footprint, but put us on the path, as I say, with regards to the goals of, as I say, reducing the impact of greenhouse gases. And there's also a public health benefit. You know, we have all the major urban areas where people suffer from asthma and upper respiratory illness, and also cardiovascular disease that's also triggered by poor climate. So there's a lot of health benefits in supporting this plan, but the most important piece is, you know, building a livable and sustainable planet and protecting the human species. So right now, being aware is a critical aspect, and I think everything that students can organize, mobilize, and do, and educate our population so they can influence legislators, is a critical piece to doing it.
Great. And you mentioned voting and being informed. Is there anything that youth specifically should be doing, or you specifically have an important role to play?
Well, the most important thing, I think, that youth, you know, as I call our future generations, this is your planet. This is your home. You have to decide, you know, what that planet is going to look like, what sites, what species are going to still be around, and you have an active role in playing right now. You are our frontline choosers. You are our hope. The hope begins here. Our generation didn't do a good job of stewardship of the planet. Your forward generation, your generation, those going forward, are going to be that front line. So youth awareness is the most critical thing. I think the most important asset for us to be elevating, lifting up, and, as I say, and informing and being, as I say, keeping the process and the momentum going, is informing and engaging the youth. You are our hope. You know, I think that right now, as we see at COP21, behind the scenes and changes here at COP21 are the carbon industries and the nuclear power industry that are still trying to find surreptitious ways to still be engaged and be called clean, even though they're dirty and contributing to the destruction of the planet. We need our youth engaged so that the public in future going forward is informed so that we can roll back these forces. These threats are persistent, they're chronic, and our youth are, as I said, is the antibody that can actually bring down this illness and this madness that the planet is facing.
Thanks. And just to go back to sort of the broad climate negotiations here in Paris, could you talk a little bit about what's different this year, or maybe what's not so different this year in terms of the talks?
Well, what's different this year, you know, from past years, from Kyoto, is that we're not coming out with a treaty, and that's a huge difference. We're coming out with an agreement, and that's a bad thing, because I think that at the end of the day, you know, we want something more binding and something that a treaty basically forces nations to do. But what's also good about this agreement, you know, while it is not, doesn't have the full force as a treaty, the fact that all the nations that are here engaged recognize that we're really at a significant crossroads. In short, national leaders are recognizing the climate science is in, and over 97% of the global scientists agree with regards to the impacts of anthropogenic effects, which is basically human impacts contributing to climate change. So I think that that has been a major wind in the sail that has pushed nations to this talks, and especially developing nations and nations with significant shorelines and coastal resources. You know, they're going to have huge impacts on their economies, if not be kind of economically wiped out. So they're actually are the front line, on the fence line states that have a lot to worry about and fear. And I think their voices are being lifted and elevated. The question is whether or not the industrialized nations are hearing and what they're going to put on the table to help mitigate, but also help change and hopefully reverse some of the damaging effects.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the folks at home?
Well, one of the things I want to drive home to the point that Al Gore was right, that the fight began long ago and we have not followed up on it. COP21 is not the beginning of the conversation. What COP21 signals is that we're right now at the crossroads. We're the last generation that can actually do any meaningful change. So the most important thing right now is be engaged, being committed, be informed, but more importantly, commit to action, because our future depends on it. We need everybody. We need our youth. And you are our next line and wave, and I think that wave is the most significant. You are the most significant generation, as I say, to really speak truth to power, but also act to power. And so we need you on our front lines. And as my motto is, all in and game on. So it's an honor to serve and work, as I say, be your president and lead you in this fight. But more importantly, you're going to have to carry that fight moving forward. And so, you know, absolutely, be engaged, be committed.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. It was great to hear what you had to say.
Right, thank you.
This has been another Sierra Scan Daily News Report from COP21 in Paris, France. Tune in tomorrow where we'll discuss the 100% clean energy action at the Eiffel Tower. I'm Emma Renee Durning. Thanks for watching.